Good evening. Welcome to the Golden Playhouse. Your guide for the night is me, the Midnight Venus, Trisha. Have you heard about this scary rumor? They say if you fall in a dream and don't wake up before you land, you die. In real life.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the Honest Review, and today we'll be talking about Catherine, a mature action-adventure puzzle game that encases a story of love, betrayal, and the terror of commitment.
Now, grab a snack and enjoy the strange tale of Catherine.
And to get right into it, the story, if I had to rate it, I'd give it a heavy anxiety out of 10. I mean, honestly, there was a lot of really good unexpected twists and turns. It was compelling overall, but it had me reeling majority of the time. I played it live on Twitch, and me and chat were completely absorbed. Whether they had seen the game played before or not, there's just so many things that make you want to come back and also just close the game and not return to it for a few days. Thankfully, though, the dialogue I thought was pretty good overall. I had a lot of cool lines. Maybe some of them were a little cheesy and one-liner-ish, but I think they had a lot of good character developing moments, and although there is a lot of talking in this game, I thought most of it was really fun, and I didn't really have a problem with the times where characters just droned on and on, because I thought what they were saying was interesting, or I liked how they said some things. The game has a giant kind of roster of supportive casts, and a lot of them aren't super important, but the ones that were the main focus of the game, being Vincent and his friends, I really enjoyed. They were all pretty fun and likable and interesting in their own right. Erica is best girl, and that's mainly because, to me, Midnight Venus gets like no development, right? Because there's this outside party, but Midnight Venus would be my best girl otherwise. I wanted to punch Orlando in the face like all game, but that didn't make me like him any less too. Like, that's just the character that he is. And Toby needs to be protected at all times. A precious being. Vincent, I really couldn't decide whether I wanted to, hit him hard enough to send him to the center of the earth or to the moon. But I also didn't. I just wanted to pat his head and just be like, hey, everything's gonna be alright, you little idiot. Catherine with a C was super suspect in a way that makes you wiggle your eyebrows, and that's enough said about that. Catherine with a K I thought was pretty cool for the most part. She honestly just seems to want to get her life together and get it figured out, which is something I can relate to. Also, I don't know why I found Johnny to be so cool, but I really did. Getting to the visuals, now note, this game is not only older, but the version that I played was a PC port. I played Catherine Classic on Steam, and with that being said, the game didn't look as good as it could have, maybe on, not being a port or in general because it's a bit older, but either way, I thought the game was really pretty. I thought the animated cutscenes were really cool. I liked how they looked. I liked the art style they had for the game. The 3D models is kind of what you come to expect from things like Persona and things like that, and I thought they were pretty good overall. The animation was kind of expressive and cool, so no real complaints from the graphics and visual side of it. I also really liked the UI. The UI was pretty cool. It's all in theme and in universe UI. You go through a phone and all the menus and everything kind of go off of the core themes and things you see in the game themselves. So I thought that was really cool. Like I said earlier, the cutscenes, are pretty good. I like the 2D animated sequences, and although I did have some weird OBS issues with it, I had to go and finagle with a bunch of things and make sure that I was doing a window capture and a bunch of other stuff to make sure the cutscenes actually showed up on OBS so my game wouldn't crash. But after I got those figured out, it was great. This game has some really nice music. It has some really, really nice music. The main menu theme was really great. There's some of the themes in the actual levels that I really enjoyed, and so sometimes when I got stuck on a puzzle and just kept dying over and over again, I didn't mind as much because I was listening to really good music along with it. And when it comes to general sound, it was pretty good. Like I said, it's a port, so not everything's as crisp and as clear as it can be. The voice acting is alright. I liked some of the characters' voice acting more than I did some others, and some things sounded kind of weird, like they were almost dubbed over or re-recorded and not spliced correctly, but those points were few and far between, so I wasn't really worried about it. Now, the gameplay, right? Catherine is a puzzle game, and these puzzles are extensive. There's a lot of stuff in it. The game has tons of things to remember in the way of I guess mechanics, techniques is the way the game labels them. So there's tons of different techniques on how to solve levels and how to overcome situations and deal with things that happen in the game. And like I said, there's a lot of these, like a lot. So there's a lot to memorize. I never did memorize any of them, and I beat the game just fine, so I feel like you should be able to do that too. But if you're into memorizing and like learning a bunch of these different things, the game has a lot to offer when it comes to that. I thought the game overall was pretty fun too. Like being able to figure out these puzzles with your own unique techniques and ways, things you didn't even know were actual techniques of the game. You just kind of, hey, can I try this? And it works. Or you keep banging your head against the wall trying to do this technique the same way you've done it before, but just a little different with like one specific change to see if that works. You know, completely overlooking that there's something different you could have tried that was much easier. So I got stuck in my own head a lot because I tried to not really like power through the levels with the same techniques, but I kept doing, okay, well, what if I try the same thing I did but change one thing instead of like trying completely different techniques? And so I got a little stuck, but overall it wasn't that big a deal. There wasn't a point where I was just like, oh, I have no idea what I'm doing, except for like one level. And then after that point, I just had like a nice repertoire of techniques. Like I had to learn one specific technique to clear a level, and after I learned that technique, that was like the final piece of the puzzle. And so everything else of the game was pretty smooth from that point on. So in general, when it comes to like other things about the game, I had some troubles with the controls. It's confusing to me, especially because there's a point where if you go on the opposite side of a block, your controls reverse when you're on, you know, the back side of the wall instead of like the front side. And that confused me more than a few times. I didn't really figure it out till majority of my playthrough had already been finished. That I was like, oh, if I just keep moving this direction, the controls don't flip. Like if you don't stop along the back side of the wall, the controls won't flip. So just keep holding the same direction. And there's some other like finicky things. And there was a lot of times where I got frustrated because I wanted to move a certain direction or climb a certain thing, and just I did something completely different sometimes. And sometimes that was probably on me for just, you know, spaghettiing my hands all over the controller or thinking that something was the right play when it wasn't. But other times it definitely felt like the game just didn't do what I wanted it to do. And whether or not it was the game's fault or mine, it was still frustrating. Like, there was just points where I just returned to monkey, and the game gets a little hard when you do that. Another note, speaking of hard mode is really hard. I put on my big boy pants and I was like, I'm gonna do hard mode on my first try. It shouldn't be nothing but, you know, a baby's task. And I just spit into the can, and I spent 2 hours on the first 2 levels of the game. Like, the first level took me forever, and the second level I never even finished. I just got to a point where I was like, yeah, maybe I should try normal. And I quit, started over the game, went on normal, and I caught up and surpassed where I had previously been in 6 minutes. So 2 hours turned into 6 minutes. And that was like bonkers to me. That's when I realized, wait, maybe I shouldn't have done what I did. But, you know, that was just me. I recommend playing the game on normal first. If you want to, you know, be 5-head and go ahead and try to do hard mode on your first attempt, good luck. The game's probably not going to be as fun. But I would try hard mode now that I've beaten the game once. Right now that I have all these different techniques and things and familiarity, I would 100% go back and try hard mode if I had the time. Also, another side note, this game has a multiplayer mode that ended up turning into like a competitive fighting game, which is super tight. I love fighting games, and I love seeing, like, just learning about the fact that this was at fighting game tournaments and it got popular and it was a really big thing. There was like this whole secret lore behind the Catherine multiplayer mode, so I really like that. I have not played full body, and I don't know if my experience will change too much with that. That's why this is just a review of Catherine Classic, but I've also heard that the multiplayer mode changed in full body, and so now there's like 2 separate versions, but they're both kind of like their own pseudo fighting game thing, so I'm really looking forward to maybe getting my hands on either one of them. Unfortunately, I don't think either of them have online play, so it's really hard to actually get out there and play right now. Getting on to the last section of the video, we're going to do our standard and classic mob or martyr section. So here I pretty much talk to you about the overall reviews of the game that I played on the platform that I played them on, and we're going to see if what I've thought and my views line up with that of the con mob, or if I'm martyred on my opinions. So right now, Catherine Classic is sitting at a very nice, very positive on Steam. It has, you know, over 4,000 reviews in general, and it's looking pretty good in that department. And some of the reviews, I was going to have like the usual list of pros and cons here, but some of these reviews are just, it's better if I just show them to you. And when it's getting into cons, honestly, they're pretty funny as well. A lot of people just don't like Vincent, which is fair. He does a lot of things that are considered dumb by a lot of people, and sometimes his indecisiveness can kind of be frustrating. But I think that's just something you have to deal with when it comes to the game. That's just like a big character flaw that happens to come up often. Some people are really upset with the difficulty of the game. I don't know if they tried hard mode on their first attempt, because I felt like after I went to normal, there was a nice scaling difficulty. Some levels were quite hard, and maybe that's just my inner puzzle god making it easy for me, but the game does have its kind of quirks. Some of the controls are weird, the performance issues, these things were common when it comes to people complaining and not recommending the game. There was points where if you use the undo action, which only works in the normal mode, so that's another thing. If you're on hard mode, you don't get to undo your last move. If you're in normal mode, you do. Sometimes when you do undo in a boss fight, it'll reset their last action, and that can get you in like these weird like gridlock insta-death situations that I ran into a few times. But again, that was more kind of me doing something and interacting weird with the game than just the game. Some people also had a lot of problems with the story. They just thought it was boring or uninteresting or anything like that. I felt the opposite. I was very interested. It caused me way too much anxiety, probably. So, all in all, it's safe to say that I'm part of the mob on this one. I think this game's great. I thought it was really fun. I definitely need to take a break before I do hard mode because the game beat the living crap out of me, just emotionally and physically when it comes to actually getting to play the game. Head hurt, no thoughts. But I think it's great. I recommend it. I thought it was cool. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree with my views. Let me know if you don't agree with my views. Let me know what game you want me to do next, if you like any of the stuff that I had to say or not. And I'll catch you on the next time, alright? Be safe, take care. Peace out.